First contact facade. The Drachnid vessel Eternal Wisdom emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. High Ambassador Zextal stood on the command deck, their iridescent scales shifting through shades of smug satisfaction as they contemplated their latest diplomatic conquest. The Drachnid Empire had spent millennia expanding their influence through careful manipulation of developing species. Their method was elegant: approach peacefully, demonstrate technological superiority, and slowly establish themselves as benevolent mentors. Within a few generations, most species willingly accepted their place as protectorates of the Empire. Initial scans confirm previous observations, reported Senior Analyst Venarx, their scales flickering with amusement. The humans maintain minimal orbital defenses. Their ships appear focused on commerce and exploration. No significant weapons signatures detected. Zextal's secondary breathing bladders expanded with pleasure. Excellent. Another species that chose progress over paranoia. Begin standard approach protocol. The Eternal Wisdom glided toward Earth with deliberate grace, broadcasting peace signals on all frequencies. Their initial research suggested humans were particularly susceptible to visual displays, so they activated their hull's full chromatic array, creating a stunning light show designed to inspire awe. "We're receiving a response," announced Communications Director Mex Lee. "The humans are directing us to dock with their International Peace Station. How charmingly transparent they are." The space station that appeared before them was a sprawling structure of gleaming metal and vast windows. Solar panels stretched out like delicate wings, and numerous docking ports suggested frequent traffic from Earth's surface. "Such an inefficient design," Venarx observed. "All those exposed components, minimal shielding. They truly have no concept of defensive architecture." The docking procedure went smoothly, almost too smoothly, but the Drachnids were too confident to notice the precision with which the station's systems guided their vessel. They were similarly untroubled by how quickly the humans had adapted their docking mechanisms to accommodate the alien ship. As the airlock cycled, Zextal adjusted their ceremonial robes and prepared to meet the presumably awestruck humans. The door slid open to reveal a small delegation, two figures in what appeared to be formal attire, their dark blue uniforms adorned with various colored ribbons and metallic pins. "Welcome to Earth," the taller of the two stepped forward. "I'm Admiral James Harrison, Earth Defense Force, and this is Lieutenant Commander Isabella Reyes, our Chief Diplomatic Liaison." Zextal's translator took a moment to process the titles. "Admiral? Defense Force? No matter, likely ceremonial positions in their peaceful society." "We are honored," they responded, scales shifting to project calming patterns. "I am High Ambassador Zextal of the Drachnid Empire. We come seeking peaceful exchange with your species." Of course, Harrison smiled, though something in his eyes made Venarx's scales twitch uneasily. "We've prepared a full tour of our facility. Though I should mention, our artificial gravity occasionally fluctuates. Don't be alarmed if you feel heavier at times." What the Drachnids didn't realize was that the gravity fluctuations were actually carefully controlled stress tests, measuring their physical capabilities. Every step they took, every reaction they showed, was being meticulously recorded and analyzed. The tour proceeded through seemingly endless corridors of what Zextal dismissed as primitive human architecture. They didn't notice how each section they passed through could be instantly sealed and depressurized, nor did they recognize the subtle weapons emplacements disguised as maintenance panels. "This is our primary observation deck," Reyes gestured to a vast window overlooking Earth. "Perfect for appreciating the beauty of our world." Indeed, Zextal moved closer to the window. "Your planet appears most peaceful from here. Unlike some species we've encountered, you seem to have avoided the tendency toward militarization that can plague developing civilizations." Harrison and Reyes exchanged a brief glance that the Drachnids completely misinterpreted. "We've learned to focus our efforts on more productive pursuits," Harrison replied carefully. "Wonderful," Zextal's scales rippled with satisfaction. Then you'll be most interested in our proposal. The Drachnid Empire offers guidance to promising young species such as yourselves. We could help accelerate your development by centuries. Fascinating, Harrison smiled. Perhaps you'd like to see our research facilities next. We'd love to show you how we've developed so far. As they moved deeper into the station, VenRX finally noticed something odd about their host's movements, a fluid efficiency that seemed almost predatory. But surely that was impossible. These were humans, after all. Simple, peaceful humans. How wrong they were. Beneath the surface. The research facility tour began innocently enough. Lieutenant Commander Reyes led the Drachnid delegation through laboratories filled with what appeared to be civilian research projects, hydroponics, renewable energy, and medical studies. But Senior Analyst VenRX couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. These are our cellular regeneration chambers, Reyes explained, gesturing to a row of sophisticated pods. They've revolutionized our medical treatment protocols. Fascinating, Zextal examined the technology with their tertiary eyes. Though the energy output seems excessive for simple healing. Oh, rapid deployment is essential, Harrison commented casually. Sometimes you need to get someone back on their feet within hours. Back on their feet? VenRX's scales flickered with confusion. What could possibly require such urgency in a peaceful society? Before anyone could respond, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights pulsed along the corridors, and the Drachnid scales collectively paled as their translator processed the announcement, Alert, live-fire exercise in progress in sectors 7 through 12. All personnel maintain safety protocols. Live-fire? Zextal's voice quavered slightly. You conduct weapons training on a peace station? Harrison's smile never wavered. One must always be prepared. I'm sure you understand. Shall we continue to the Quantum Computing Center? The Drachnids followed, increasingly unsettled by small details they'd previously overlooked. The corridors weren't just wide for convenience, they were large enough to move heavy equipment. The reinforced walls weren't just sturdy construction, they were designed to contain explosions. Even the civilian researchers they passed moved with an unexpected discipline, their casual gestures hiding years of combat training. This is our primary data processing hub, Reyes announced as they entered a vast chamber filled with humming machinery. We use it for scientific research, weather modeling, that sort of thing. VenRX's analytical instruments detected something else. These energy signatures, they're running combat simulations. Among other things, Harrison acknowledged. One of our favorite programs is called Decisive Thunder. Would you like a demonstration? Before the Drachnids could respond, the lights dimmed and a holographic display sprang to life, filling the chamber with a detailed tactical simulation. Thousands of ships maneuvered through complex battle formations, executing strategies that made Zextal's blood run cold. Just a game, of course, Reyes added smoothly. Humans do love their entertainment. Of course, Zextal managed, their scales now cycling through shades of anxiety. Though these formations seem rather advanced for a peaceful species. Oh, that's nothing, Harrison waved dismissively. Wait until you see our actual military simulations. Speaking of which, Admiral Patel should be joining us shortly. She's eager to discuss our defensive capabilities. The way he said defensive capabilities made VenRX's analytical mind finally connect the dots. The precision docking procedures. The subtle weapons emplacements. The combat simulations disguised as games. This wasn't a peace station, it was a carefully concealed fortress. High Ambassador, VenRX whispered urgently in their native tongue, I believe we may have miscalculated. These humans dash. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Admiral Patel, a stern-faced woman whose mere presence seemed to command respect. Unlike Harrison and Reyes, she wore a different uniform, one adorned with insignias that Venarex's cultural database now recognized with growing horror, medals of combat. "Welcome to Earth," Patel's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I trust you've enjoyed seeing our peaceful achievements. Now, shall we discuss what we're really capable of?" The Drachnids watched in mounting dread as she activated another holographic display, this one showing the true extent of Earth's orbital defenses. Hidden weapons platforms. Cloaked warships. Automated defense systems that made their own technology look primitive by comparison. "You see," Patel continued, "humanity learned long ago that true peace comes from being prepared for war. We didn't abandon our military capabilities, we perfected them. Then we hid them behind a facade of civilian progress." Zextal's scales had turned a sickly shade of gray. But our scans showed exactly what we wanted them to show," Harrison finished. "Just like your ship's scans are currently being thoroughly analyzed by our defense systems. Speaking of which, those peace signals you broadcasted. We decoded the embedded surveillance protocols within seconds. Quite clever, really." The Drachnids stood in stunned silence as their carefully crafted illusion of superiority crumbled. They had come to guide what they thought was a naive species, only to find themselves in the presence of masters of deception and warfare. And they hadn't even seen the worst yet. The archives speak. The next phase of the tour took place in what the humans called the historical archives. The room was dimly lit, its walls covered with interactive displays showing what appeared to be military campaigns throughout human history. Admiral Patel had been joined by General Marcus Rodriguez, a weathered veteran whose scarred face told stories of its own. "You see," Rodriguez began, his voice carrying the weight of experience, "humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our persistence. Our ability to learn from every conflict, to adapt, to overcome." He gestured to one of the displays. "Take the Battle of Thermopylae, for instance. 300 warriors against an army of thousands. Even in defeat, we learned lessons that we still apply today. Zextal's diplomatic training was failing them. But your public broadcasts, your entertainment, they all suggest a species focused on peace and cooperation." "Oh, we are," Harrison smiled. "We love peace. That's precisely why we've become so good at war. Because we understand its cost." He activated another display, showing humanity's first ventures into space. "When we reached for the stars, we didn't just bring our dreams of exploration. We brought every hard lesson we'd ever learned. Notice the design of our first space stations," Reyes pointed out. "Civilian sections visible from the outside, military components hidden within. We've been practicing this deception since before we left our atmosphere." The displays shifted to show various military training exercises. The Drachnids watched in growing horror as human soldiers demonstrated their capabilities. Urban warfare, space combat, zero-gravity operations, each scenario more complex than the last. "But what truly sets us apart," Admiral Patel continued, "is our understanding of psychological warfare." She gestured to another screen showing what appeared to be entertainment broadcasts. "Every action movie, every war game, every historical documentary, they're all part of our training program. We turn combat doctrine into entertainment, strategic thinking into children's games." Venarex's analytical mind was racing. "The social media, the endless entertainment." "Exactly," Rodriguez nodded. "While you watched our cat videos and dance challenges, you missed the military exercises we conducted in plain sight. Those viral videos of parkour. Urban combat training. Gaming tournaments. Combat simulators. Even our children's games teach basic tactical thinking." The displays now showed something that made the Drachnid scales turn almost white, humanity's classified weapons development programs. Antimatter warheads disguised as power plants. Kinetic strike platforms hidden within communication satellites. Entire fleets concealed by technology that made them appear as nothing more than orbital debris. "We call it the doctrine of peaceful readiness," Harrison explained. We maintain overwhelming military superiority while presenting an entirely peaceful facade. Not out of deception, but necessity. We learned long ago that the universe isn't always friendly. But why? Zextal managed to ask. Why maintain such military might if you truly desire peace? Admiral Patel's expression hardened. Because we remember our history. Every invasion. Every war. Every time we had to defend ourselves. We swore we'd never be caught unprepared again. She paused, fixing the drachnids with a steely gaze. Just as we weren't caught unprepared when your ship entered our system broadcasting false peace signals while scanning for military targets. The drachnids froze. Their covert scanning operations had been classified at the highest levels. How could the humans have known? Oh yes, Rodriguez smiled grimly. We detected those scans. Just like we detected the weapons hidden within your ship's diplomatic hull. The surveillance systems in your peace signals. The computer viruses in your cultural exchange protocols. In fact, Harrison added, bringing up one final display, we know all about the Drachnid Empire's standard conquest protocol. Approach peacefully, establish dominance through technological superiority, then slowly subjugate the target species. Very clever. Or at least, it would have been, against the species you thought we were. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Drachnids had come expecting to find a naive, peaceful civilization ripe for manipulation. Instead, they had walked into the domain of a species that had mastered both war and deception, who maintained peace through overwhelming strength while hiding their true nature behind a carefully crafted mask of innocence. And now that mask was coming off. Tables turned. High Ambassador Zextal's scales shifted from fear to something else, desperation. With their carefully laid plans exposed, they fell back on their species' last resort, intimidation. You think you understand the situation? Zextal's voice took on a dangerous edge. The Drachnid Empire spans thousands of worlds. Our fleets darken the skies of 100 systems. If you dare to threaten us dash. Threat assessment already completed, interrupted a new voice. Commander Rashid Khan stepped out of the shadows, his cybernetic eye glowing faintly as he projected a holographic display. Drachnid military capabilities, impressive, but obsolete. Your most advanced warships would have been a match for our forces, about 50 years ago. The room's lighting shifted, and suddenly the Drachnids realized they were standing in what appeared to be a combat information center. Screens came to life all around them, showing real-time tactical displays. Allow me to demonstrate, Khan continued, his cybernetic eye scanning data streams. Currently, 37 of your hidden warships are positioned throughout our solar system, disguised as comets and asteroids. Clever. However, he made a small gesture, and new data appeared. We've had weapons locked on every single one since they entered our space. Admiral Patel stepped forward. Did you really think those ships were undetected? We tracked them the moment they crossed the Oort cloud. Your stealth technology is based on crystalline metamaterials. We cracked that code during our first deep space experiments. Venarex's analytical instruments were going haywire. Beyond the visible displays, they were detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist, quantum entanglement on a massive scale, artificial gravity manipulations that defied known physics, and power readings that suggested weapons of almost unimaginable destructive capacity. Impossible, Venarex whispered. Your technological level, our intelligence suggested. Suggested exactly what we wanted it to suggest, Harrison finished. Those primitive rockets you observed? Decoys. The civilian satellites. Weapon platforms. Even that peace station you're currently docked with. He paused, allowing a predatory smile. Well, let's just say it's not primarily designed for diplomacy. As if on cue, the station's superstructure reconfigured around them. Weapon ports appeared where there had been viewing windows. Armor plates slid into place over seemingly decorative panels. The entire facility transformed from a welcoming diplomatic center into an armed fortress. But our scans. Zextal protested weakly. Were allowed to see precisely what we wanted them to see, Rodriguez explained. Just like we allowed your advanced ships to observe our civilian activities. Those reality shows about family life. Recorded in military bunkers. Social media influencers. Many are trained intelligence operatives. Even our internet cat videos are part of the deception. Commander Khan's cybernetic eye flashed as he brought up more tactical displays. You're currently tracking what you believe to be Earth's primary defense fleet near Mars. That's actually a decoy force. Our real fleet. He paused, entering a command. Suddenly, space itself seemed to ripple around Earth. Thousands of ships materialized, destroyers, carriers, and weapon platforms that had been completely invisible to Drachnid sensors. The sheer scale of the human military force made Zextal's primary heart skip a beat. As we speak, Patel continued, human forces are positioned near every major Drachnid world. Not as a threat, you understand. Just as a reminder that deception works both ways. Those trade vessels you've been allowing through your space. Not all of them were simple merchant ships. The Drachnid's proud posture had completely crumbled. Their supposed technological superiority, their careful plans for manipulation and eventual domination, all had been based on a fundamental misconception about humanity's true nature. Here's what's going to happen next, Harrison stated calmly. You're going to contact your empire. You're going to explain that humanity is not a potential conquest, but a species to be treated with respect and genuine diplomatic courtesy. And then, perhaps, we can begin real negotiations, as equals. And if we refuse? Zextal managed to ask, though their scales had turned a pale color of absolute terror. Harrison's smile was cold. Then we'll be forced to demonstrate why we put so much effort into appearing peaceful. Trust me, you don't want that demonstration. New understanding. The following days brought radical changes to human-Drachnid relations. The Eternal Wisdom remained docked at the station, but now under very different circumstances. Gone was the pretense of superiority from the Drachnid delegation, replaced by genuine curiosity and, surprisingly, growing respect. Admiral Patel had arranged a special presentation in the station's Strategic Command Center. Unlike their previous displays of force, this one had a different purpose. What you're about to see, she explained to the assembled Drachnid diplomats, is why we chose peace despite our military capabilities. Computer, display historical file Omega, 7. The room darkened, and holographic images appeared showing Earth's most devastating conflicts. World wars, nuclear standoffs, civil conflicts that had nearly torn nations apart. We didn't develop our military might out of aggression, Harrison continued, his voice solemn. We did it because we understood its cost. Every weapon we created, every strategy we developed, was born from the determination to prevent these events from ever happening again. Zextal watched the images with their tertiary eyes, their scales shifting to a deep blue of comprehension. You hide your strength, not to deceive, but to avoid using it. Precisely, Commander Khan nodded. Our greatest victory wasn't developing these weapons, it was learning when not to use them. We maintain overwhelming military superiority precisely so we rarely have to demonstrate it. The displays shifted to show humanity's peaceful achievements, global cooperation initiatives, environmental restoration projects, medical breakthroughs that had saved billions of lives. This is our true power, Rodriguez gestured to the images. Not our weapons or our tactics, but our ability to choose peace even when war would be easier. We became masters of war so we could become better architects of peace. Venarex's analytical mind had been working overtime, processing this new understanding. Your entertainment, your games, your social media, they're not just deceptions. They're pressure valves. Very good, Reyes smiled. We channel our aggressive instincts into harmless competitions. We turn our tactical thinking into games. We celebrate our warriors through stories while working to ensure their skills are never truly needed. The Drachnids watched as more recent footage played, human children playing elaborate strategy games, adults competing in sports, digital warfare simulations that doubled as training programs. "We're offering you a choice," Harrison addressed Zextal directly. "The Drachnid Empire can continue its path of subtle conquest, eventually running into species who might not be as restrained as we are. Or. Zextal's scales shifted to an attentive purple. Or we can forge a genuine alliance. Share our different approaches to maintaining peace. Your empire has kept order in its space for millennia. Imagine what we could accomplish together, combining your experience with our perspective." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Drachnids had come expecting to find a naive species to manipulate. Instead, they'd found equals who had mastered both war and peace in ways they had never imagined. "The choice," Patel concluded, "is yours. But remember, true strength isn't in showing power, but in knowing when not to use it." Zextal was quiet for a long moment, their scales cycling through thoughtful colors before settling on a decisive gold. Perhaps it's time for the Drachnid Empire to learn some new approaches to diplomacy. 1 month later, the first genuine human-Drachnid cooperation treaty was signed. The Drachnids brought their centuries of diplomatic experience and stability, while humanity shared their unique perspective on maintaining peace through hidden strength. As the Eternal Wisdom prepared to depart Earth, now carrying a contingent of human diplomatic advisors, Harrison stood with Zextal on the observation deck. "A question, if I may," Zextal's scales shifted to curious green. "How many other species do you think have hidden their true capabilities as you have?" Harrison smiled enigmatically. "That's the beauty of it, isn't it? You never really know. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson humanity can teach the galaxy. True peace comes not from showing strength, but from the wisdom to keep it hidden until truly needed." As Earth receded behind them, the Drachnids had much to contemplate. They had come to teach what they thought was a young species, only to receive a profound lesson themselves. Sometimes the most peaceful garden hides the sharpest thorns, and the most powerful warriors are the ones who work hardest to avoid using their strength. In the end, that was humanity's greatest achievement, not the weapons they had created or the deceptions they had mastered, but the wisdom to know that true power lies in choosing not to use them. The galaxy would never be quite the same again.